Welcome back to Form Drawing Friday. In this section of Kutzley's first workbook, we're going to look at the foundation for the woven ribbon, and it's actually section 3 in his book. I would really recommend that you go and purchase the book if you don't have it already. I don't get any commission from this, but if you want to dive a little bit deeper and have the words that go with these drawings, then I recommend the book. This section is really about the woven ribbon, which follows a strict order and has some rules to it, but it also offers an area of freedom, which is really the freedom of balance between the binding and the resolving, which we have talked about in some of the early videos. If you haven't seen them, I recommend you go and check them out first before you maybe dive into this. So when we want to do a ribbon, very, very simply, I've drawn a lot of dots here on the page, and basically what you want is you want just a single line of dots to start with. Always follow this. So whenever we do these ribbons, we always want to space our dots as evenly apart as we can. The next step is looking at the difference between the straight line, the binding, and the resolving, which is the wavy or more malleable line. So to start with, you can say, if you're drawing a line through these dots, it follows a sort of rigid and unmovable kind of line. So it's very unmoving and unfree when you just draw a straight line through your dots. What happens is that when you start using your wavy line, which is what I'm going to show you here, then that gives you a sense of freedom within the line. It still follows the line, the wavy line still follows a pattern. There's still an order to the way it goes, and it always goes from below to above, and then down below, and then back above, down below and above. So you can see here, there's a pattern, there's a rhythm. And basically, of course, this is pliable, it's malleable. And depending on what kind of person you are, you might have a tendency to not have great looping waves. You might have just some very soft undulating waves. Could also be that you have some very great waves where you're really reaching the extremes. And so in this sense, you can see here, there is an order. It's the same thing that's happening with our wavy line. It's running exactly the same way through our line of dots, exactly the same, but there's some movement, there's some freedom within how I draw these wavy lines. So basically with the wavy line, we can really play with the rhythm as well. So for instance, here I've drawn the curves so that they're harmonious, equally, I've tried at least, equally far down and far up, from my dots. So there should be roughly the same distance to the line. But you can play with that. So it doesn't have to be like that. You can play with that, and I would encourage you to do that. So basically, you might like to try and have your line curve down below your first dot, but then curve up high with the next dot, then curve down below, just below your next dot, and then up high, and then curve down below, and then up high, and then curve down below, and then up high. So here you can see, again, you know, I'm still doing the same, going the same way. I'm going below my dot, above my dot, below my dot, above, but I'm varying how much the line, how close the line is to my dots. And that's really my ego force that comes into play here. That's me deciding in advance, of course, that I want to try and do, you know, my line close to a dot and then high and then close and high and close. You can do all kinds of different variations here. Now I have a sheet underneath where I've drawn some variations, but we'll come back to that. The next thing I want to show you is that really what we have here is we have a line that runs through our dots, and then it runs this direction. But then what we want to do is we want to try and basically meet that line. So then we start again, and then we cross over. So every time we're crossing over, we're meeting something other than ourselves, essentially, here. So whenever there's a crossing, a binding, then we're meeting something that's really different. But what you can do is you can also basically, I'll just quickly draw up another couple of lines here. You can also join up this band. And so when you do that, it becomes this very harmonious band. So here I'm looping around at the end and coming back. There we go. So what you can do with this is, if some of your waves are sort of slightly misplaced or not as harmonious as you would like, then, as I've always encouraged in these videos, is you just go over your line again. And then you, of course, you have to adjust as you're going over your lines. So basically, what you can do is you can then start playing with the rhythms. I'll show you how. Here are some examples of ribbons that I have created with different rhythms. And I hope that it's obvious with the rhythm, due to the fact that I have put different colours on the two different lines, the one going forward and the one intersecting coming back the way. So really, these are just ones that I've made up. You can make up lots of other rhythms and you can really play with this. The reason that I have put green ticks next to the first four ones and a red cross to kind of signify that this one isn't as good is that there is something with this last ribbon that's out of place. Can you see what it is? Basically, here in the first ribbon, we have large, small, small, large, small, small, large, and so on. Here we have small, 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 large, large, small, 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 and so on. Down here, we have a large, small, 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 large, small, small, large. So it's not really as harmonious as the ones above. So when you're creating your ribbon, make sure that it creates a nice rhythm, that it doesn't become, this is almost disharmonious because it's not placed evenly. There isn't the same small amount of waves on either side of this middle one. If this one had been moved into the middle and sat there, that would have made that harmonious. But this is disharmonious. Okay, so I hope this is a bit of inspiration. You can pause the video and draw up these bands if you want to, or you can absolutely make up your own, and I would encourage you to do that. That's all for this week. I look forward to seeing you next week for a new exercise.